The perfect match game. Victor Sterling stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of his penthouse office, watching the city sprawl beneath him like a kingdom he commanded. At 32, he had built Sterling Technologies from nothing into a billion-dollar empire. His sharp jawline and piercing blue eyes had graced magazine covers, his innovative mind had revolutionized artificial intelligence, and his wealth could buy anything he desired. Everything except the one thing that truly mattered: a mother for Lucas. The 7-year-old boy had been the light of Victor's world since the tragic car accident that claimed his wife 3 years ago. Lucas possessed his mother's gentle spirit and Victor's quick intelligence, but lately the child had grown quieter, more withdrawn. The parade of nannies and tutors couldn't fill the maternal void that ached in his small heart. "Sir," came the refined voice of James, the family butler who had served the Sterling household for 2 decades. "Your mother has arrived for the weekly dinner." Victor suppressed a sigh. Helena Blackwood Sterling, despite being 65, remained a force of nature. She sat on the company board, managed half the city's charity events, and had very specific ideas about what constituted proper breeding for the Sterling bloodline. "Send her to the dining room, James. I'll be down shortly." The Sterling mansion's dining room could seat 20, but tonight only 3 chairs were occupied. Helena sat at one end, her silver hair perfectly coiffed, her emerald necklace catching the chandelier light. Lucas picked at his food while stealing glances at his grandmother, who surveyed him with the intensity of a general reviewing troops. "Lucas needs stability," Helena announced without preamble, cutting into her perfectly prepared salmon. "A proper mother figure, someone from good family, excellent breeding, who understands the responsibilities that come with the Sterling name." Victor watched his son's shoulders tense. "Mother, we've discussed this." "Have we? Because from where I sit, you're letting sentiment cloud your judgment." Helena's fork clinked against her plate. "The Morrison girl is perfect. Stanford educated, comes from old money, speaks 4 languages. Or perhaps the Ashworth heiress. Her father owns half of downtown. What about love?" The small voice came from Lucas, who had finally looked up from his untouched vegetables. Helena's eyebrows rose. "Love, darling boy, is a luxury. Marriage is a partnership, a merger of compatible interests and social standing." "But didn't you love grandfather?" A shadow crossed Helena's face. "That's different, Lucas. Your grandfather and I were well matched in every way." Victor studied his mother's expression, remembering the stories his father had told him in private. Helena had indeed loved deeply once, but that love had been with a man her own parents deemed unsuitable. She had chosen duty over her heart, and spent 40 years in a marriage that was successful by every measure except happiness. "I want to meet them," Lucas said suddenly. Both adults stared at the boy. "Meet who, sweetheart?" Victor asked. "The ladies. The ones grandmother thinks should be my new mother." Lucas set down his fork with determined precision. "If I'm going to have a new mother, I should get to choose, right?" Helena looked delighted. "Of course, darling. A reception, perhaps. Something elegant where you can meet several suitable candidates." Victor felt trapped between his mother's expectations and his son's innocent request. "Lucas, are you sure about this?" The boy nodded solemnly. "I want a mother who will love me for real, not because she has to." 3 days later, the Sterling mansion buzzed with preparation. Helena had organized what she called an intimate gathering of 12 carefully selected women, each a potential bride for Victor and stepmother for Lucas. The guest list read like a who's who of high society. Daughters of senators, heiresses to fashion empires, accomplished doctors and lawyers from prestigious families. Emma Rodriguez pushed her cleaning cart down the servants' corridor, trying to stay invisible as catering staff rushed past with silver trays and crystal glasses. At 26, she had worked for the Sterling household for 6 months, arriving each morning before dawn to clean the offices and leaving before the family woke. The job paid better than her previous positions, and she desperately needed every dollar to support her sick younger brother's medical treatments. She had seen Lucas only a few times, usually when he wandered into his father's study while she was dusting. The boy was polite but sad, with eyes that seemed too old for his young face. Emma's heart had gone out to him immediately, recognizing the loneliness she had felt after losing her own parents at 16. "Miss Rodriguez." James appeared beside her cart, his expression uncharacteristically flustered. "I need your assistance." "Of course, James. What do you need?" "The young master has locked himself in the library and refuses to come out for the reception. He claims he's not ready to meet his potential mothers." James ran a hand through his usually perfect hair. "Mr. Sterling is with the guests, and Mrs. Blackwood is becoming increasingly agitated." Emma followed James to the library, where they could hear muffled sniffling from behind the heavy oak doors. "Lucas?" Emma called softly. "It's Emma, the cleaning lady. Can you open the door?" "Go away. I don't want to meet those ladies. They smell like fake flowers and they talk to me like I'm stupid." Emma glanced at James, who nodded encouragingly. "Lucas, I understand you're scared. Meeting new people can be frightening." "I'm not scared," came the indignant reply. "I just don't think any of them will really like me. Grandmother keeps talking about breeding and partnerships. Nobody mentioned love." Emma's heart clenched. She pressed her palm against the door. "Lucas, can you tell me what you're really afraid of?" A long pause. Then, in a voice so small it nearly broke her heart, "What if I choose wrong? What if I pick someone who pretends to love me but really just wants Daddy's money? What if I get a new mother who's mean when Daddy's not looking?" The wisdom and fear in those words stunned Emma. This child had been thinking deeply about his situation, understanding nuances that adults often missed. "Lucas, those are very smart concerns. It shows you have a good heart and a wise mind." Emma sat on the floor, leaning against the door. "But can I tell you a secret?" "What secret?" "Real love can't be faked for very long. When someone truly loves you, you can feel it in the way they listen to you, how they remember the little things that make you happy, and how they make you feel safe even when you're scared." The door lock clicked. Lucas opened it just a crack, one brown eye peering out at Emma. "How do you know about real love?" Emma smiled gently. "Because my little brother loves me that way and I love him back. We take care of each other." Lucas opened the door wider, revealing his tear-streaked face and rumpled formal clothes. "Will you come with me to meet the ladies? I don't want to go alone." Emma glanced at James, who looked torn between protocol and compassion. "Lucas, I'm just the cleaning staff. I don't belong at your father's party." "Please? You could pretend to be my friend who's visiting." Before Emma could respond, Victor's voice echoed from the main staircase. "Lucas, son, where are you?" The boy grabbed Emma's hand. "Please, just for a few minutes. I'll tell Daddy you're helping me be brave." Something in his desperate grip melted Emma's remaining resistance. "Okay, but just for a few minutes." They emerged from the library to find Victor striding toward them, his face a mixture of relief and exasperation. Behind him, Helena approached with military precision, her sharp gaze immediately fixing on Emma. "Lucas, thank goodness," Victor said, then noticed Emma. "I'm sorry, I don't believe we've met." "This is Emma," Lucas announced before anyone could speak. "She's my friend, and she helped me stop being scared. She knows about real love." Helena's eyes narrowed dangerously. "Young man, this person is household staff. She has no business attending our private gathering. But grandmother, Emma understands about being afraid and about love that's real instead of fake." Victor studied Emma's face, noting her genuine concern for Lucas and the way she instinctively positioned herself protectively near his son. "What's your full name?" Emma Rodriguez, sir. I work for the cleaning service that maintains your offices. She started to step back. I should return to my duties. No, Lucas said firmly, surprising everyone. I want Emma to meet the potential mothers too. She can help me decide which ones have real love and which ones are faking it. Helena looked scandalized. Victor, surely you're not considering this ridiculous request. But Victor was watching his son's face, seeing an animation and confidence there that had been missing for months. Actually, Lucas might have a point. An objective observer could be valuable. This is preposterous, Helena hissed. Lucas looked up at Emma with hopeful eyes. Will you help me figure out which lady would be the best mother? Please? Emma looked from the boy's pleading face to Victor's curious expression to Helena's outraged glare. She thought of her brother in the hospital, of the job she couldn't afford to lose, of all the reasons this was a terrible idea. Then Lucas squeezed her hand trustingly, and her decision was made. Okay, Lucas, I'll help you. As they walked toward the reception, Emma had no idea that her simple act of kindness was about to turn the Sterling family's carefully ordered world completely upside down. The Sterling mansion's grand ballroom sparkled with crystal and candlelight, but the real diamonds were the 12 women scattered throughout the space like precious gems in a jewelry store display. Each had been carefully selected by Helena for their impeccable breeding, substantial family fortunes, and suitability as the next Mrs. Victor Sterling. Emma felt completely out of place in her simple black dress, borrowed hastily from one of the catering staff. The other women wore designer gowns that probably cost more than Emma made in 6 months. But Lucas gripped her hand tightly as they entered, drawing strength from her presence. Remember, Emma whispered to him, watch how they look at you when they think your father isn't watching. That will tell you everything. Victor made the introductions with practiced charm. Ladies, I'd like you to meet my son Lucas and our family friend Emma Rodriguez. The responses were immediate and telling. Sophia Ashworth, a stunning blonde in a silver gown, smiled brilliantly at Victor while barely glancing at Lucas. What a handsome young man. I'm sure we'll be great friends. Veronica Morrison, elegant in navy blue, knelt gracefully to Lucas's level, but her smile felt rehearsed. Hello there, sweetheart. I brought you a gift. She produced an expensive educational toy still in its packaging. One by one, the women made their pitches. They complimented Lucas's manners, praised his intelligence, and made promises about the wonderful activities they would enjoy together. But Emma noticed what they didn't see, how Sophia's smile disappeared the moment Victor turned away, replaced by calculating coldness as she studied the room's valuables. How Veronica spoke to Lucas in the overly sweet tone adults used with pets. How most of them positioned themselves to have the best view of Victor while largely ignoring the boy they claimed to want to mother. What do you think? Lucas whispered to Emma as they moved from group to group. I think you're a very smart boy for wanting to be careful, Emma replied quietly. The real test came when Lucas, overwhelmed by the attention, accidentally knocked over a glass of juice onto Sophia's designer gown. The expensive fabric immediately stained, and for just a moment Sophia's mask slipped completely. You clumsy little brat, she snapped, then caught herself as Victor hurried over. Her expression instantly transformed back to understanding sweetness. Oh, it's perfectly fine, darling. Accidents happen. But Lucas had seen the flash of genuine anger, and Emma watched his face crumple with recognition. This was exactly what he had feared. Someone who would be kind to him only when his father was watching. I'm sorry, Lucas whispered, tears starting to well in his eyes. Emma immediately knelt beside him, pulling out her own handkerchief to clean his hands. Hey, it's okay. Accidents really do happen, and anyone who gets upset about spilled juice on a dress doesn't understand what's important. But I ruined her pretty dress. Clothes can be cleaned or replaced, Emma said gently, wiping away his tears. What matters is that you're okay. Are you hurt? Lucas shook his head, but his grip on Emma's hand tightened. Victor, who had been apologizing to Sophia, noticed the exchange and felt something shift in his chest. This woman, this cleaning lady, had immediately prioritized his son's emotional well-being over social embarrassment or expensive damages. Helena approached with disaster control written across her face. Lucas, you must be more careful. These ladies have been kind enough to visit us. Actually, Lucas said with surprising firmness, I think I've learned what I needed to know. Oh? Victor crouched down to his son's level. And what's that? Lucas looked around the room at all the beautiful, accomplished women, then up at Emma's concerned face. I want Emma to be my new mother. The silence that followed was deafening. Champagne glasses stopped halfway to lips. Conversations died mid-sentence. Helena's face went through several shades of red before settling on a dangerous purple. Lucas, Victor said carefully, Emma isn't one of the candidates. She's our friend who was helping you tonight. But she's perfect, Lucas insisted with 7-year-old logic. She listened to me when I was scared. She didn't get mad when I spilled juice. She cares about my feelings more than expensive things. And look, he tugged on Emma's hand. She has kind eyes. Real kind eyes, not fake kind eyes. Emma's heart hammered against her ribs. This was a disaster. She would lose her job, her income, any chance of helping her brother. Lucas, sweetheart, I'm very flattered, but your father needs to marry someone from his own world, someone who can help him with his business and social responsibilities. Why? Lucas asked with devastating simplicity. Don't you like us? The question hit Emma like a physical blow. The truth was, over the past 6 months of working in the Sterling household, she had developed deep affection for this lonely little boy and grudging respect for his father, who clearly loved his son deeply despite his demanding schedule. I like you very much, Emma said softly. You're one of the most special people I've ever met. Then why can't you be my mother? Before Emma could answer, Sophia Ashworth stepped forward, her stained dress forgotten in her determination to salvage the situation. Mr. Sterling, surely you're not going to entertain this ridiculous fantasy. The child is clearly confused. Helena found her voice. Victor, this has gone far enough. Send the help back to her duties and let's continue with the evening as planned. But Victor was studying Emma's face, seeing something there that intrigued him. Emma, may I speak with you privately? Sir, I really should go. I've caused enough disruption. Please, just for a moment. They stepped onto the moonlit terrace while James efficiently managed the crowd inside. Lucas pressed his face against the glass doors, watching anxiously. I owe you an apology, Victor began. This situation is completely unfair to you. It's not your fault. Lucas is just a child looking for someone to love him unconditionally. It's natural that he would latch onto the first person who showed him genuine kindness. Victor moved closer, studying her face in the moonlight. Is that what you think happened here? That Lucas simply attached to the first kind person he encountered? Emma nodded, not trusting her voice. Then you don't realize the effect you've had on both of us. Emma's breath caught. Mr. Sterling. Victor. Please. He ran a hand through his dark hair. Emma, in the 6 months you've worked here, Lucas has mentioned you more than anyone else. Emma fixed the books in my study so the pictures face the right way. Emma always smells like sunshine and soap instead of weird perfume. Emma talks to me like I'm smart, not cute. Emma stared at him. He said those things? And more, much more. He's been begging me to meet the nice cleaning lady who makes him feel safe. Victor stepped closer. What I can't figure out is why a woman with your intelligence, your natural grace, your obvious education is working as cleaning staff. Heat flooded Emma's cheeks. My circumstances are my own responsibility, Mr. Sterling. Victor, he corrected again. And I'm not judging, Emma. I'm trying to understand. Because watching you with Lucas tonight, seeing how naturally you handle difficult situations, how you prioritize what's truly important, you have qualities that can't be taught or bought. Through the glass doors, they could see Helena gesturing emphatically, while the potential brides clustered around her like jeweled birds. Lucas remained pressed against the glass, his small face filled with hope and fear. This is impossible, Emma whispered. I'm nobody. I have no family fortune, no social connections, no education from fancy schools. I live in a one-bedroom apartment and work 3 jobs to pay my brother's medical bills. And Lucas chose you over 12 women who have everything society says should matter. Emma looked into Victor's intense blue eyes and saw something that made her heart race. What are you saying? I'm saying that maybe my son sees something I've been too blind to notice. Maybe he understands that love isn't about matching bank accounts or social registers. Victor reached out to touch her hand. Emma, would you consider staying, not as staff, but as part of our family? Before Emma could answer, the terrace doors burst open. Helena stood there with fury radiating from every line of her perfectly composed figure. Victor Sterling, what exactly do you think you're doing? Victor straightened, not dropping Emma's hand. I'm considering my son's happiness, Mother. By throwing away everything we've built, the Sterling name, the family reputation, the business connections. Helena's voice rose with each word. This woman is a gold digger who manipulated a lonely child to get to you. That's enough. Victor's voice carried the same authority that commanded boardrooms. Emma has shown Lucas more genuine care in one evening than most of those women inside have shown in years of social interaction. Helena turned her venom on Emma. You calculated little schemer. Did you plan this from the beginning? Worming your way into a child's affections to trap a wealthy husband? Emma felt tears burning her eyes. Mrs. Blackwood, I never intended for any of this to happen. I was just trying to help Lucas feel less afraid. How convenient. Helena's smile was razor sharp. Well, let me make something perfectly clear. If my son is foolish enough to pursue this absurd infatuation, he will lose everything. The family trust, his position in the company, his inheritance. I'll see to it personally. Victor's jaw tightened. Mother, choose carefully, Victor. Her or your family legacy. As Helena swept back inside, Emma pulled her hand from Victor's grasp. She's right. I can't let you destroy your life for a fantasy. What if it's not a fantasy? Victor's voice was soft but intense. What if Lucas sees something real that the rest of us have forgotten how to recognize? Through the glass, they watched Lucas break away from James and run toward the terrace doors. He burst outside and flung himself into Emma's arms. Don't go, he pleaded. Please don't leave me with the fake kind ladies. I want you to be my mother. I want us to be a real family. Emma held the sobbing child, her own tears falling freely now. Over his head, she met Victor's eyes and saw her own impossible longing reflected there. The choice between love and security, between following her heart and protecting the people she cared about, had never been more clear or more devastating. As Lucas clung to her and Victor watched with his heart in his eyes, Emma realized that some decisions would change everything, no matter what she chose. But sometimes, she thought as she looked at this man and this boy, who had somehow become her whole world in a single evening, the heart knows what it wants, even when the mind says it's impossible. Lucas, she whispered into his hair. What if I told you that sometimes the best families are not the ones that look perfect on paper, but the ones that choose to love each other despite everything? Victor stepped closer, his voice barely audible. What are you saying, Emma? She looked up at him, tears still streaming down her face, but with something new shining in her eyes, something that looked like hope. "I'm saying that maybe, just maybe, your son is the wisest person in this whole mansion." Through the glass doors, Helena watched in horror as her carefully orchestrated evening crumbled around her. But James, standing quietly in the shadows, allowed himself the smallest of smiles. After 40 years of serving the Stirling family, he had finally witnessed something he never thought he'd see. The moment when love conquered everything else. The real story, he knew, was just beginning.